The first rule in investment is don't lose. And the second rule in investment is don't forget the first rule, and that's all the rules there are.
Thank you for coming on.
No
Please
problem.
explain who you are and what you do and about your channel. You can pump that if you want.
Sure. So my name is Leo. I run my YouTube channel under my name. And throughout my channel, I put out investing videos 3 times a week. And I do primarily stock analysis videos using my very own stock research app that I've been building. And it's geared towards new investors, but primarily value investors. And the app essentially streamlines the fundamental analysis of different companies. So you can screen companies in a quick manner and understand what the business does. And eventually you can price it out to figure out what you should pay for that business today. So it has an intrinsic value calculator based into it, as well as different sections such as a financial evaluations area, which grades the company based off of their balance sheets, income statements, and cash flow statements. But that's primarily what I do. I showcase the software, what it does, but also analyze and try to educate my audience on how to properly analyze companies in a much more rational way.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So the way I found you, Leo, was I was just looking on YouTube at work one time, just learning about stocks and way to structure my portfolio. I think I was watching the Dividend Growth channel. I think it was.
Right.
Then one of your early videos was on the recommendation list. Like, let me check this guy out. I actually like this guy. This guy knows what he's talking about. And I think you were about 100 subs, little like 1.5 or 150. So I sent you a message on Instagram, like, hey, I like your screener. How do you make it? Then I didn't really expect you to answer right away. So a month went by, you already responded within that month. Like, crap. Oh, he responded back. So then we started kicking it off.
Started chit-chatting. Yeah, I don't really. I recently started going back on Instagram. I as I started the channel back up, or started taking this channel more seriously. I said, well, I have my Instagram up there. I should really just start utilizing it, right? And try to connect with people, and I just show that I actually have a personality outside of doing stocks research. But I saw your message. I said, like, oh, okay, like this guy wants to know, and he's also, let's talk shop and talk stocks. I'm like, yeah, totally. Like, I've been working on this thing for a couple of years now, because what I was struggling with, and I think a lot of investors struggle with, is developing a process and the emotional side of things. So for me, I wanted to, and I like automation. So my whole idea for this app was, I know I'm going to be excited about things. I know I'm going to be scared about different things. So if I can just build something that's just present me the facts, and then I can make a decision based off of that, to remove as much emotion from the process as possible, that I know for sure that will help me. And then afterwards I thought about it and said, well, I mean, it's helping me make these decisions on a more rational basis based off the numbers that are presented to me. This could potentially help a lot of other people that are probably in the same boat. So I said, let me just make videos and post them out there and see what people think.
And you actually have been gaining subscribers quite fast.
It's progressed. I've been taking the channel seriously since January, when I started posting analysis videos, and I had pretty much just friends and family. I think I started around like 10 or 16 people. Now I'm sitting just at 300. So I'm very grateful for everyone that's been watching, and I'm obviously grateful for you. I mean, this is a phenomenal experience. It's like, I would have never guessed from January until now. And now I'm talking with you, Marquise, who's been watching my videos, and now I've been watching yours, and now we're having this whole discussion. So it's kind of surreal. It's kind of crazy, and and we're all just both getting started, right?
Yeah. I started thinking in March, like 3 months after you did, posting videos. mean, yeah, in between, I am a cyber security student, so the
Hmm.
long breaks is because of school and work.
Right.
So this past 2 weeks, I've been focused on finals. So like, I haven't really posted a lot of videos, but it's
Right.
understandable. But yeah, ever since every time when see your video pops up, like, oh, I'm gonna watch Leo's and help him out, help the Ago, because you know how that is.
Yeah, it's very interesting, and it doesn't particularly, what I've noticed, like, I guess, my style of videos for the most part. It's not, and I'm saying, maybe like is not the proper term, but I noticed, at least with stock videos, it doesn't like fundamental analysis more than it likes speculative analysis. And I feel like there's a lot of channels out there that are saying this stock or whatnot is going to do this and
10x.
this and this and this, and it's always talking about what the future of what this company could potentially do, and they never really talk about what they have done and what is the likeliness of them actually being able to continue that into the future.
Yeah.
So, but I'm very grateful for all the people that have liked and subscribed to my channel, and and being just almost on the same page, right? Saying, well, how do we look at this rationally, right?
Or
And
how to look at this at a fundamental level.
exactly, how do we look at this at a fundamental level? Let's imagine the stock market's not there, right?
Mm-hmm.
How do we look at this business on its own, right?
When I was thinking of my process of
Mhm.
how I'm gonna evaluate stocks,
Yeah.
I don't know why, but this graphic image came to my head of a tiger or a lion like hungry for food.
Yeah.
But see, it sees like a baby gazelle runs by, but it also sees a dead uh wildebeest on on the side. Like, which one is it gonna go for? The skinny little baby gazelle, they're running by quick, or just free food?
Right.
So that same thing with value investing or fundamental value investing is, are you going to choose to eat that quick stock that rise up quick,
Hmm.
or this one right here in front of you that's on a very good discount and you be full for many days?
It's a good, yeah, it's exactly, it's a good way of looking at it. I sometimes I bring up the analogy, you have to be a lion in the tall grass. You have to be a lion in the tall grass and just be patient and wait. And there's going to be multiple opportunities that come, right? But yeah, it's exactly that, finding the one that is going to keep you full for the next few days, right? Where if you're finding one that, let's say, gazelle, that's gonna maybe keep you full for an hour, and then, like, oh, that's not good, right? If we're
Mm-hmm.
talking about animals, but it's essentially that. And I've noticed people, when you talk to people, they either get it or they don't. They kind of do. It's very rare. It's you explain the process to them, and maybe you can agree with me or disagree. But when you're talking to value investing to some people, and try to make it in the sense of, let's say you're buying something that's at a discount, like you go into the store and you're buying your favorite cereal and it's on sale, you're gonna naturally get excited. That's like, oh, right, I can get two for the price, like two for one or something like that. You're gonna get excited. Same thing with stocks. If you like something and it goes down in price, like, why not buy more of it if you enjoy it, that business?
I, I completely agree, but I think it goes one step further with
Mm.
stocks, is that you have to figure out why it's on discount.
Yes.
That's where fundamental value investing comes in play, instead of growth investing. Like, oh, I'm just going to Tesla because everyone's going Tesla,
Right.
or a lot of the big name speculative YouTubers are going like Tattoo Chef, or all these ones are haven't been around the market for like 5 years. Because I noticed in your videos how you analyze stocks is that you kind of use very similar metrics as Everything Money.
Yes, I love those guys.
I do
uh
too. I was telling the person I interviewed yesterday that I love Paul because my dad raised me on sugar-free cookies. He
Mhm.
never sugarcoat anything for me.
Right.
So the way Paul speaks makes sense to me because that's how I was raised.
Right. No, those guys, I fell in love. I fell in love with those guys as soon as I started watching their videos, like around like this time last year. But it was funny, and I was and they kind of pushed me in a way to get my thing out because I've been working on this like software pretty much early COVID, like when the pandemic started and everyone was inside. So I said, okay, this is a perfect time to actually start working on this thing. And then I started watching Everything Money, and I'm like, these guys are phenomenal. They have like a great, like, like Paul's a great spokesperson. He makes sense. He's rational. And then they showcase their software, and I'm like, oh damn, they got something with like pretty much on the same realm that I have. And the my original software, I did borrow one thing from them, and that's the three different categories, like the three different evaluations, like the conservative, moderate, and aggressive. Because originally my software was just the one, right? You'd have just the one analysis. You could plug in your numbers, and away you go. So I said, oh no, that's actually interesting. You could do just three different ones to try to get um, three analysis valuations all at once. But the way they structure their eight pillars, and we both have a lot of similar category. Like there's some similar categories that carry over. I don't have like I like to use that like their EPS growth and like ROE, but looking at the fundamentals of let's say free cash flow and stuff like that, I'm like, yeah, we share those categories because I'm like to me I'm like that makes sense. The trifecta for me is the revenue growth, income, and net income, and free cash flow. If those three things are growing, right, those are the three cornerstones, and then as well as share dilution. So those guys there I fell in love with, and then upon like I actually am a subscriber to their software as well because I think their software is phenomenal and the community that they have is great. But yeah, no, those guys were a lot of fun. So looking at I have my software pulled up here, and they definitely were a huge influence on me to try to just get my thing out because even though like we're all value investors at the end of the day,
Yeah.
and the main thing is like well their thing is mostly focused on there's a lot of different tools. So my thing is, can I put out the best stock research app out there? And even though it's like it's my philosophy, right? And there's a lot of different things that differentiates my software from theirs. But can I help people that maybe they are not reaching, right? As long as everybody wins, that's the main thing. As long as everyone's educated, that's
Yeah.
that's the main thing.
But there's some drama going on with them.
Oh, I know, but you know what? I think it's justified.
It
I think.
is. It is very justified because they have a process. They
Mhm,
want to help people stop blowing their money on these YouTubers who don't have a process at all.
exactly.
And we're not going to name YouTubers because we're
R-
too small to even get a pool.
Right. We don't have to, yeah, jump into the names, but the thing is, those guys are, and here's I guess the discrepancy or the the difference of how many channels actually exist out there with that investing philosophy, right? Where you have these guys that are on a speculative nature of analyzing stocks, and they're all almost grouped up in the same camp, right? But then, and you're not the first person that actually compared me to Everything Money. There's a couple of people that actually compared me because, well, the structure of the videos are actually somewhat similar because they have their software, I have mine, but we're also value investors,
Hmm.
right? And I feel like there's very few channels out there that are geared towards value investing. The main channels being obviously themselves, like Everything Money. You have Sven, Carlton, right? Jimmy from Learn to Invest. These are like the major value investing channels, but those are very far and few between because you have all these guys that are just hounding you, saying buy this, sell that, pick up this, short that, all this stuff based off nothing,
Yeah.
right? And you have the value investing community like yourself, myself, which are smaller channels, but we all sound the same.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Like even because you have your own software, I think, or you're building your own analysis tool.
Yes, I am. Mine takes five more. Uh, I call it filters.
Right.
Even though yes, it's metrics, I prefer to call it like filters. But before I talk about mine,
Yeah.
is there. I honestly feel like there's three main camps. There's
Mhm.
the fundamental value investors, then there's the growth uh sorry, growth value investors like Jeremy. They're more about growth. They're more about growth.
Mm.
And like,
Right.
oh, this stock's gonna go 10x.
Yes.
Then the other third camp is all just strictly dividend investors.
Yeah. Yes.
So we got everything money leading the charge for fundamental value investing. We got what's a big dividend channel?
Um. Well, Andre Geek was, I guess he was the prime dividend guy for a while. And when
Then
I
he
was
switched to crypto.
he switched to crypto, but early on, like he was very much into buying dividend paying stocks to have that passive income. I can't think of any off the top of my head other than him because that's what his initial
Oh,
approach was.
we got JJ Buckner
Oh, I heard of that guy. I haven't watched this.
from Dividend Freedom.
Okay.
Then you got Ryan Williams.
Mhm.
I'm actually in Ryan Williams Discord server, and they're good people in there. Then we got the other Yahoos that
Yeah.
just worry about their revenue. Then they're actually showing process. But my
Right.
process is called the clear picture.
Hmm.
I take 13 filters.
Hmm.
Yeah, people say that might be a lot, but for me, it helps me see more clearly of what the direction of the stock is going.
Hmm.
Yeah, the three trifecta of revenue, profit, and net income growth. Then I use three margins to figure out how the company is doing. I use gross margin, profit margin, and net margin.
Right.
Even though you can substitute the gross margin for net margin, but I just want to separate them because net margin goes one step further than gross margin.
Yeah.
Then I have free cash flow growth, price to
Hmm.
free cash flow yield. Then I have um I'm gonna just draw a blank. Free cash flow growth, price to free cash flow yield, debt to crash free cash flow, if I can speak.
Right. Yeah.
And then I have two returns. I keep bouncing back and forth from return on equity. No, not return on equity, return on invested capital or return
Right.
on asset.
Right.
But then I also have return on equity. Warren Buffett's favorite metric
Mhm.
to look at. Also share outstanding.
Right.
So those are mine. It goes through a filter and gets from the top with the basic three, the net, revenue, profit growth, net income, and just filters all the way down to the point where I can see how the stock's doing. I got a little disagreement, I want to say, in Ryan Williams' Discord server about Starbucks, for example.
Right.
You look at the return on equity on Starbucks,
I don't remember it off the top of my head, but what?
negative 60.
Okay. Okay.
Their debt level is higher than their net income and free cash flow combined.
Now,
Way higher.
yeah. And now, was that from an effect from COVID? Because
They're
on average.
so the year after COVID for last year,
Yeah.
their return on equity is negative 60. For the year of COVID is negative 18.
Mm.
And the year before that, 2019, was negative 79. So just in those 3 years, somehow COVID was better on return on equity year
Yeah.
for Starbucks than year before and the year after.
That's very interesting. It quite doesn't make. I mean, I don't know how it was over here because I'm up in Canada. We've had like locations closed down during the whole COVID when like Starbucks was starting to pull away, starting to shut down. And I believe also overseas. I don't know if I forget which
They,
country.
they did, I think they did in Russia because of the whole Russia-Ukraine war.
Right. But
But
I'm talking about during COVID. It's very interesting that you have these numbers that during COVID it was actually somewhat better,
yeah,
right? But so what this disagreement that you guys had? What
uh, it was more about the purpose of because there's one guy in the chat only uses return on invested capital.
mm,
He doesn't use return on equity or return on asset because to him it's too complicated to do money or price or sales to or cash to cash. He'd rather use the numbers to cash. That's what return on invested capital is. It's just pretty much numbers compared to cash.
Right.
So return on assets is product versus cash.
Right.
And return on ROE is more the equity, the value of the company compared to cash.
Right.
He doesn't like that, how it was more complicated to the other two. So he's just like, well, I'm just use return equity and invest capital. To each his own.
Right.
I was trying to show him like there's more into it you can use. I mean, yeah, return assets is more for banks and other financial companies because they have more assets than pretty much anyone.
Mhm.
So how can we get a return on it? But also, it was more my fair value of Starbucks. My first discount cash flow model, I used two, and I find the average of both of them.
Right.
The first one, we're saying Starbucks is going to be like $92. Like with that debt level and CPI raising, I don't think they can grow with that. Then also the second one said that Starbucks was valued at like $23.
Right.
So you average that, it's roughly about $56.
Right. I think I can't remember the last. I did an analysis on Starbucks, and I feel like it was, yeah, was overpriced, and I feel like my analysis was around $50 ish range. Like it had to fall down. But that being said, like there's a lot of companies out there that I mean, I don't think there's no one way to like you can skin a cat many different ways, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm assuming with your software as well as mine, like it's always just a tip of the iceberg when you have like for me, like if I look at a company and you probably agree with yours, like let's say everything checks off 13 out of 13, or mine's like 10 out of 10,
Mm-hmm.
right? But you got to know what's the entire like what's the story, right?
Yeah.
Right? What's like what do they have in the pipeline? What's going on? Right? Because all these things can change. Who's the management team? And then if it's overpriced, sometimes if it's 10 out of 10 on those categories, when you do the DCF or whatever your intrinsic value calculator is, it's grossly overpriced. But with Starbucks, that's a company I actually own. I actually own that some stock in Starbucks, and I think my this is a year ago, so I know I overpaid for it. I for sure overpaid for it when I ran the numbers again. But I bought it around like let's say the $70 range.
So roughly
Right.
where is that right now, right?
Roughly, yeah. So this is pre-COVID. This is way probably back. This is the 2018 to probably 2019. And
what price was it then?
There's probably like that price. Like that's when I bought it. I was about like $70, $70 to $80 in that range there. That was like my average cost, and I just sat on it. And then it went up to 120, and I'm like, okay, this is a little bit way overpriced. This is just before the actually the middle of the pandemic, went to 120. So I trimmed some off the top, and I said, okay, I'll take
made
that.
a profit.
Made the profit, and then I'll put some towards Intel because I said, well, Intel is extremely undervalued, and put it in there. So you look at return on equity, return on assets, and return on invested capital.
Yeah, it depends on the stock, and I switch return on assets and return on invested capital. I switch them. It depends on the company, but return on equity stays.
Yes.
So I use 10% for return on invested capital and return on equity. While return on assets, I use 5%. Because typically return on assets is lower than both the other two. But I use price free cash flow instead of PE ratio. The PE ratio can be manipulated a lot more than price to free cash flow because like I said, you're comparing cash, the sales, to the free cash flow. That's it.
Right.
There's no other step. There's nothing being involved. It just sales to cash. And and I use from 15 to 20, that range, I think the company is fairly valued. But like 21 to 25 is overvalued, but it's manageable.
Right.
Then anything under 15 is undervalued. So if you get like 26, as overvalued. I'm not touching that.
Yeah.
But there's actually one stock I did an analysis on that actually is my first 13 out of 13 so far. That's Cummings.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, Cummings is the only one right now. Is the only 13 out of 13. Not even Apple, not even Microsoft. They just last year they acquired Metator to
Okay.
help them get into the EV sector
Okay.
of the industrial side. I mean,
I
they
had
were
no idea Cummings was. Yeah. Sorry, I started to cut you off. I had no idea Cummings was publicly traded. To be honest.
it is.
Okay. Interesting.
It's been I think since the 80s.
Oh, interesting.
So yeah, they bought Metator and to help get into the EV sector of the
Right.
industrial. Then down there looking at um branching off one of their divisions to make their own IPO of it as their filtration department. They're trying to branch off because they're making enough money where they can just easily branch off the division into making their own IPO, which is going to give more value to investors into Cummings.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So 13 out of 13. That's very interesting. Like for me, obviously, I have less categories, so I've seen a lot of like 10 out of 10s, but to get like 13 across the board, that's the only company that you have.
Yeah.
Yeah. And do you primarily just look at US stocks, or do you look at
I typically do. I have one BABA. I have BABA in my holdings. Then I also look at TSM because we're talking about it. But actually, because we have less than about 9 minutes left in Zoom, so let's go into the mystery sectors or stocks we have.
yes.
Would you go first?
Would I go first? Sure. So you wanted me to take a look at
You can share your screen if you want.
oh sure. How do I let me share my screen? We'll do that. We'll share. Okay. Do we see the full screen here?
Yep.
Okay, so Excel. I'm gonna call it Excel.
Yeah.
So I was looking at this. I already put in some numbers here at the bottom because of just based off what I thought. So this company, it's obviously we're scoring it a 7 out of 10. I don't think the share dilution didn't bother me too much, even though it's a 2% increase over the last 5 years. But the 5-year revenue growth was really like the free cash flow is phenomenal. You have huge revenue growth and net income growth is like insane. But then I see these numbers and then the immediate thing is, all right, like let's go to the income statement and stuff like that and see what's actually going on. And like, is there negative numbers in the revenue? And no, it's just been exponential just across the board. So,
well, if you look at 2012 to 2014, it did take a dip. In 2015, it did dip.
Yeah,
but it came back up. But look at that 2015. Yeah, right there.
Just 2016 in absolute insanity.
Then the year after that, wow.
Yeah, like it literally has just been like leaps and bounds. Like 2016 to 2017, then it's slowly now. It's still progressing, but from a 10-year jump, $47 million to $1.43 billion. Right. And I was like, what is this company? Like, what is like going on? So I'm just looking at the numbers just based off what you were showing me. And then I looked at free cash flow and noticed it. This is a quarterly basis. Give me a second. We go to annual basis. So we definitely have some like negative numbers at 2015, which is fine. You know what I mean? It was public like 10 years ago. So from about 2016 onwards, it's been decent, except for that one little dip that we had in like 2021.
Oh, wait, before you go into next, look at the stock-based compensation. That's a lot. Look at their stock-based compensation.
Yeah,
that's a lot of money going to shareholders or internal shareholders.
Yeah,
that's a lot.
That's a lot. Like, I mean, what's the market cap on this company? $6.84 billion. Yeah. What did we say? What did we say it was? 112 million, 119.
So 120.
120, 120. Yeah, it's a decent amount. That's a pretty hefty amount.
Yeah.
Operating cash flow. And then
They
Obviously,
have bought companies I saw.
yeah. So I mean, I don't know too much about this business at all. Like I've never heard of this business. So it's a biotech company and stuff like that. Like that's outside of like my realm, like
Mm-hmm.
of any kind of like circle of competence. I would never look at a company like this. Like anything in the healthcare section, I'm like, it's it's beyond me, right? I don't know if you feel the same way, or do you have an understanding of how healthcare companies
The
run?
only part of the healthcare I see is doesn't make products for health, like
Mm.
PG, Johnson. But stuff like biotech, I don't know. I just randomly pick which one can have like a high PE to free cash or price of free cash flow, and this is one of them.
This was one of them. Okay,
Hmm.
interesting. Yeah, so I don't usually do any price. Yeah, so the price of free cash flow is super low here. Like it's 15,
That's a
right?
PE.
Right? No, that's the price of free cash flow. This is the PE ratio. I have to
Oh,
talk to it. Yeah. It's still the app is almost done. It's still the beta stages. It's still the little kinks to work out so everything
mm.
aligns up properly. But other than that, it's done. It's ready to go for everybody to use. But like overall, it's a 7 out of 10 on my valuations. Current ratio, I'm loving a lot. The only problem is here with what I'm noticing is that with a 6.37 current ratio, my thing is you have all these assets on hand, and anything over 1.5 is fine with me. But when you have all these assets on hand, are you not making use of those assets to funnel into something else? Do you know what I mean?
How are you making money off these assets? That's pretty much what you're saying. It's like, so when it's time to liquidate our inventory, how are we gonna make money off it?
Exactly. You have all these assets just hanging around, right? Usually anything like 1.5 to 3, I'm like, this is good. That means you're either reinvesting it somewhere and stuff like that. When it's just 6.37, it's great. You're recession proof for the most part, if anything needs to be liquidated. But what are you doing to grow the business further? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
So sorry to cut you off.
no, go
So
ahead.
what was your prediction of the price value of their intrinsic value according to you?
No idea. To be honest, I run just I put the numbers uh through my calculator. I'm gonna go with 10-year analysis here. But the one thing I had to look at was because we do have some negative numbers obviously in our 10-year category. So predominantly hovering around our 5-year number. But to me, it didn't make sense to go close to 57. So I stayed south of 45 and I went 22. And this is me just being obviously, you've watched my videos, and for those who haven't watched my videos, I like to stay as conservative as possible and then try to creep my way up to say, hey, what can we possibly do? Right. Because if it lands here and we'll calculate it, then it's fine. I've given myself a proper margin of safety because they very well could do another 40% revenue growth a year,
Mhm.
hypothetically.
That means you
But
have about 20 something percent of gains because you're doing
yes.
it so low.
Well, look at this, right?
94.
Yeah. 94, and look, ignoring all the moderate and aggressive categories, right? You put it through your conservative numbers here, assuming 22% revenue growth, and I'm only assuming a 14% profit margin, which is below what our 1-year number is, well below what our 5-year number is, right? Staying within our free cash flow margin, as well as our price of free cash flow staying roughly the same at 14 and a low PE ratio and a desired return of 13, it's $60, $61 on average, right?
Yeah,
This is what I mean. You give yourself, like, I could put 50% revenue growth in to match what we currently have, and that'd make that price go up higher. But even with extremely low revenue growth numbers, it's looking like it's extremely undervalued.
yeah.
But
So
yeah,
we have about a minute and a half. So I'm gonna quickly go over mine.
yeah, we can jump back into something else afterwards. We'll once it if it ends, right, just restart the meeting again, record, and then we just snip it all together.
Oh, that makes sense. You're the genius. You had the one that had the interviews before.
No, yeah,
I guess they teach you how to Zoom better in Canada.
yeah. I learned a thing or two. Trust me, I
So
talk a lot.
all right, you know what? You can finish your thing. If time runs out, we can just do what you
Yeah,
said.
But yeah, less than a minute left. My final take on this is I don't know. Like personally, I don't know healthcare, but this is something that if someone that knows biomedical stocks, I would say, hey, take a look at this company because on a price perspective, it makes sense to buy. But that's just me. I wouldn't jump into this because I don't know. I have no clue. I'm just going based off the numbers here.
Yeah, and it looks fantastic.
It looks
My
great.
my only problem with it is that share-based compensation being so high.
Yes.
It's like, why is it so high? I mean, I like you. I don't know biotech at all. Like I said, I just pick a random stock on a filter on stock analysis, um, with a high PE ratio within that 15 and 20, and this is one of them. So that's good that you did that. They
Yeah.
don't have a dividend, so sorry, people who are more.
Okay.
How
Yeah.
rude of Zoom
I
to
know.
cut me off in the middle of my talk,
I
man.
know. It's so disrespectful. You're
Come
just
on.
talking about the dividends too. We're just talking about dividends as well.
I know, like that stock doesn't have dividends, so sorry.
Hmm.
So actually, I want to talk about your rules of investing
Okay.
because not a lot of people express their rules of how they invest. Because for me, I have kind of 3 or 4 main rules. I do not invest in companies that are just IPO'd or are less than 5 years on the market. The reason why, 'cause I want to see history.
Right.
I do the same method as Paul from Anything Money. He doesn't invest into any companies less than 5 years. Same with me. Um, if they are, if that's the main one is, I want to see stocks that have been on the market, yep, for 5+ years.
Hmm.
I'm not investing in any penny stocks because they're too risky.
Hmm.
Um, and if a company asks me to come pump and dump their stock, I'm not doing it.
Yeah. No.
So those are my main 3, I guess you could say.
I agree with pretty much all of those 3 rules. To be honest, for me, and I've expressed this on my videos numerous amounts of times. Like I'll analyze any company. My thing is I'll try to get as many companies as I can get out there as possible. But when it comes to actually personally investing into different businesses, it has to be like no more. It has to be on the market for at least 5 years. Granted, there are some companies in my portfolio. There's one company. There's one company in my portfolio that is like three. It's been like 3 years on the market, and I got into it around in the 2 year mark. Just because reading what they've been acquiring and what they've. I think to be honest, I think I'm a little bit too early to it, but I believe in it like long term. Now, this is might be my speculative play, but for 90% of my portfolio, it's be on the market for more than 5 years, follow what's going on with my spreadsheet and my app here. If it checks off a bunch of these boxes and ultimately be undervalued. I don't do penny stocks. When I first started off, these are the mistakes I've made that, and maybe you can agree,
Yeah.
or you've been in that predicament. You've done the penny stocks, you get burned, and then afterwards you find this process, which is, okay, how do I not make those same mistakes again? So penny stocks, no, I don't buy off, and I think this is what this market being as overvalued as it is, there's a lot of people saying, take a look at this company, take a look at that company. And maybe I'm just a stubborn person, but if someone recommends me a company to take a look at, I say I have to peacefully like decline, because as soon as it becomes um a group adventure, right? Like you have to be the one to search out for the answers, right? You probably came across, let's say, my videos because you wanted to find an answer for a company that you're looking at, right? That you want to take a look at. I don't know, whatever that company was, right? I don't like going out and telling people, hey, take a look at this company, because I don't know your situation,
Yeah.
right? I don't know your portfolio. So when someone says, take a look at this company, I guarantee I have not ever taken a look at that company ever, because it's very much a solo journey, right?
Yeah, I'll take a look if someone tell me, oh, take a look at this. But if I find out the company has not been on the market for 5 years,
You're right.
4 might be pushing it. 4 might be pushing it for me. If 5 years doesn't work, all right, sorry, dude, I'm not, or girl, because girls are now. I hope more girls get in the stock market.
Mhm.
Sorry, not girls, females.
Yeah.
If they ask me to look at the company in not 5 years, bye bye. Sorry, I'm not looking at us.
Yeah, and it's sticking by those principles, and it's just like a lot of my like my investing philosophy is just built into my software.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the 5 year thing is huge for me because my one section of my software, the company metrics, it compares what on average what they've done in the last 5 years to what they're currently doing.
Yeah.
Right. So I can see how does it contrast and compares, as well as the financial evaluations takes a look at those last 5 years and then grades it. Right. So it heavily revolves around the last 5 years of the business, as well as my outlook is 10 years minimum 10 years for holding on to a position. I may sell stock, right, and trim off the top of a company, but I will hardly ever, if never, close out a position unless I've hold on to that company for 10 years because I want to, I, if I'm buying something, I want to believe in that company for at least that length of time.
Yeah.
So with that being strict on that position, I know, okay, if I'm going to purchase this, hey dude, you're stuck with this for 10 years. So make sure you know what you're buying and what if it's right or wrong.
Yeah.
So
Also, I guess the fourth rule is that I'm not going to buy a company just off the YouTubers.
right.
So we have not the 5 year length of history,
Mhm.
no IPOs.
Yes, no IPOs.
Yeah, because unless you're Apple or Microsoft, when you IPO, you're going to crash further than when you IPO. For example, Tattoo Chef right now. I know I'm saying Tattoo Chef as a hint to a YouTuber,
Mhm.
but I think it was IPO'd at $7. I mean, it rose during COVID, but now it's selling less than $6. So it's selling less than IPO
Right.
because it doesn't have fundamentals.
Yeah, and it's like you can't even do an analysis on the company and say, well, now is $6 a bargain, right?
Yeah.
Or are you still overpaying for it?
Yeah.
Right? There's no history to back it up. Yeah, I won't buy anything based off of. I agree with you, like YouTubers, and I try to make it very strict on my videos to say, hey, just because I say this company's like undervalued based off what I've seen, it doesn't mean you should go out and actually buy the thing. It's always the first. I'm only here to provide the first step of analyzing something, and this is just all I want to do for at least people watching my videos, and maybe you can agree with the content you're putting out is here's one tool for your toolbox to take a look at,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's all we can do. But yeah, people that say buy this, buy that, like, well, no, if you're not licensed to give that recommendation, and likewise, you shouldn't be telling people what to do with their own finances. It's personal finance
I
for
honestly believe YouTube needs to crack down on that more, but they don't because they bring in views, which is bringing in revenue for YouTube.
yeah,
And
exactly.
they want to use, oh, this is not financial advice, not financial advice, but you should buy this. It's going 10x. Like, where's the contradiction there?
Yeah,
And
it,
it's a very common pattern with people saying, oh, buy this stock, it's going 10x. That's the top. As it crashes, even not a week, a month, but it's going to crash.
for me, I kind of cringe at it's a 10x.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Where's your proof on
is,
a stock that only been there for a year?
is it though? Is it though? Like, I listen, I'm happy with the 2x. You know what I mean? If it's rational and makes sense. You know what I mean? Like, but,
Yeah. So before I share my process on how I do
yes,
things, and also
yes.
the stock that you had me look at,
Mhm.
what's one stock if you had a time machine to go back to their IPO that you would have spent $10,000 investing in?
Oh, this is a very hard question. It's a very hard question because we established that we would never buy IPOs, and now you
Yeah.
want me to go back and
I mean,
live through.
all right.
Hmm.
5 years after the IPO, which stock would you invest $10,000 if you can go back in time?
Oof. For me, it's got to be either. That's hard. That's hard because the common answer would probably be either Apple, Amazon, or Microsoft. To be honest, like just because of what we know now and how huge the tech industry has become in terms of internet, right?
Mhm.
It probably for me it's a toss up between probably Microsoft, probably Microsoft or
Okay.
Apple.
Okay.
But it just based off what they've done for just on a technological basis, right? I think obviously I think maybe Apple's probably giving you the better return
Of the
of the
two.
two of Apple Microsoft, but if I had to pick, I'd probably either go Apple or Microsoft. You can't go wrong with either of those
You can't.
businesses, right?
For me personally, I will set my time machine, go back to the time when I think Amazon was selling for like $10
Mm,
after the .com crash, then invest
yep.
$10,000 into it because ever since then it's been on a giant rise.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're 100% right. When I'm looking at it, I mean, because I'm also thinking about could I stomach all that?
Yeah, the
That's
.com.
the dot-com bubble, and Paul brings this up in Everything Money, right? Could you be able to stomach all these e-commerce businesses just being wiped out, and then the 1% that remains is this Amazon that's highly dependent on books
Consumers.
primarily, and it's obviously this huge consumer marketplace, but it's primarily based off of books. And then afterwards, it started to get into whatever it is now, this giant
Everything.
media corporation from books, and now we have Lord of the Rings, like television show,
Yeah.
right? So it's crazy to think about. For me, I know based off my own emotions, wouldn't be able to stomach that. Microsoft and Apple seems a lot more manageable because
Yeah,
you
everyone
already
was
have
using it.
everybody was using it, and you have the likes of, let's say, IBM at the time. Like honestly, even before IBM became this whatever it is now, right? Actually, I obviously wouldn't do IBM, but based off of what was going on based on in the 70s and 80s, hanging on to those businesses and just saying where they go, because if they're going to evolve what IBM's already established, I feel like that'd be much more easier to hang on to than Amazon, just because you know what, the only news you would get is from the newspaper
Yeah.
in the time machine. So out of
So
sight, out of sight,
yeah,
out of mind.
but if I can find the actual bottom of Amazon stock, I
Oh
think
yeah,
if it was like what 30 cents, I think Paul was saying
something like
like
that.
$30 or 30 cents.
Yeah,
You put $10,000 into that when it's at the very bottom, and where's that now? You're looking at probably closer to like 500% return.
it's astronomical. It
Yeah,
just it compounded like insane amounts. It's just the main thing is though, right? It's already has and it's been gone, but the emotional value, the emotional impact.
yeah.
How would one be able
Like
to manage that?
you put in, you see it goes up, like oh yeah, I'm gonna take half. Then you're
Yeah.
like crap, it's still going up.
Yeah.
So I'm like,
Personally, I sorry, I got these notifications. Personally, there's a part of me that wants to believe that Alibaba is that company.
yeah,
And I know there's a lot of controversy that, and we'll jump, and I won't say too long because I know we're gonna jump into your analysis. But my quick point on this is there's a lot of controversy surrounding Alibaba because obviously it's a Chinese business,
mhm,
and obviously this is as a Canadian looking in onto what the American economy, because I only predominantly invest into American companies. I don't actually invest into any Canadian companies because the American economy is strong, right? American has the best businesses in the world. There's no doubt about that. But then you have this rival country that is also trying to get their economy off the ground. and
which
also
is
trying to
dependent
mitigate.
on the American economy.
Yeah, dependent on the American economy and American investors. And there's a lot of these discrepancies in saying, well, are the numbers out there? Are they correct? Are they true? And that's what's scaring a lot of these people. So to me, it makes sense. Listen, you want American money in your company.
Yeah.
You should be able to play ball, because if you do not play ball with American investors, guess what they're doing? They're going to pull out their money and put it back into American businesses. And guess what? You have no fighting chance of fighting, this economic battle. So where does that leave investors? Hope that they're telling the truth,
Yeah.
right? And then it could be, I think a business like Alibaba and Amazon can both coexist. But the runway for Alibaba is still very long, right? You have a country of 1 point something billion people that are buying and selling, and whatever that economy rises to, and whatever their growth is amongst that country, as well as people outside of that country in Europe and North America, they can heavily compete against Amazon obviously on a they won't be able to compete on, let's say, the media scale, but they might be able to absorb some of their market share based off of the items that they currently have. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like the everyday things.
Yeah.
Because I truly believe that Amazon, their main driver is obviously their warehouse. That's where they make their money and revenue. But as they get into music, video games, TV shows,
They just bought MGM theaters.
that's what I mean. If Alibaba eats up their delivery side of things, I don't think they're going to be hurting too much. I think they have all these other outlets. This is me thinking like 15, 20 years down the line.
Amazon paved the path from to follow.
Mhm.
They are the Amazon of China. If they follow the
Yeah.
path that Amazon set, they could easily not really reach the levels of Amazon, but be very close.
Exactly. And just to call back to what we're talking about with Microsoft and Apple, we had IBM, like the number one tech stock of ever, right? They had their computer systems up until like they were like the forefront of computing systems. And then Microsoft came along saying, hey, I built this operating system. You've paved the way of computers. Here's an operating system to complement what you've already built. Here's the software, right? So it might be a scenario like that where you have this company that's the pathway is already paid for them. Are they able to walk it and actually grow on top and build on top of what this other business has already built?
And if I'm not mistaken, IBM is actually the company that made Bill Gates a billionaire, because IBM came to Microsoft saying something like they are willing to sell their computers to Microsoft or something like that, or some type of software, and Bill Gates had turned them down and told them to go somewhere else, and they did. They gave a value too high for IBM. And I guess IBM came back to Microsoft a couple years later and gave the same pitch to them. He said, only way we can accept this is if we pretty much almost like a third party. We buy from you, but we sell it to someone else. And
Yeah.
IBM agreed. And that's what
Yeah.
made Bill Gates a billionaire.
Yeah.
So, but let's get to
Let's see your evaluation. Let's jump into it. I'm very excited.
so let me actually zoom in really quick. Because that was one thing you gave me advice on, was that I need to zoom in. So
Yeah, I was watching the video and I'm like, I can't see what's going on. Okay, this is perfect. I like this.
So the video, or not the video, the stock that you gave me to review is Taiwan Semiconductor, or TSM.
Yes.
So we have to be careful with the numbers. The numbers look fantastic. They're huge, but they're in Taiwanese dollars.
Right.
So
Sorry, that's a little curveball I gave you.
No, that's right. So one Taiwanese dollar, this is how much it is in USD. Sorry, that how much it is in one USD.
Gotcha.
So it's very small.
Yeah.
Oops. So we can see. So this is my clear picture.
Mhm.
So revenue growth has gone up by 40, almost 40.3%. Profit growth has gone up 42%. Profit margin has gone up 91, almost 92%. Gross margin is up 50%. So my margins, I want that above 40%. And I believe net margin, if I'm not mistaken, what is it? I'm close to that. Wait, come on. 20%. You want net margin above 20.
Right.
Net margin, gross margin, and I think it was yield. I actually got that from Warren Buffett, like what Warren Buffett likes to do with those that metrics. Do I not have free cash flow yield? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. All right, right there. All right. So net income growth has gone up about 44%. And again, these are from 5 years ago to now, up to now.
Right.
The margins and the yield, I think, is more of an average of 5 years. While revenue growth, net income, profit, price to free cash flow. No, sorry. The only ones that are really from you take the 5 years ago number and subtract it and divide it by current is revenue growth, profit growth, net income. The rest are more of like an average like yours.
Right.
So net margin has gone up 64.32%.
Right.
They have grown their free cash flow from 5 years ago to now by 27.73%. Not bad.
It's not bad at all.
That's a good number. But look at the price of free cash flow.
You're right.
They're overvalued as can be.
Yeah,
But
it is somewhat high.
yeah. The free cash flow yield, you want that above 5%.
Mhm.
I mean, technically you want it above 1, but I prefer 5% to actually show me that they can make money. That's simply what free cash flow yield is see if they can make free cash flow. They can pay off all their debt in less than 5 years. That's pretty much saying they can pay off their debt in about 1 year. So they're not buying shares, or they're not selling more shares. That's good.
Yeah, it's better to see that than adding shares on.
Yeah. So because there's a chip company, I want to see the average return on assets. Because their main focus is making chips and selling them to companies. I'm pretty sure they sell them to like Microsoft, IBM, all of them. So how much money can they make off their chips? Or what's the return? And they're 18.07%.
So yeah, with the Taiwan, their main customers are AMD, I believe Qualcomm, Nvidia. So they're making all those chips over there, and I think they recently made a partnership to produce some Intel chips. I don't know which ones, because it's very. I could be wrong, but I believe Intel struck a small deal with them just to help out with the fabrication, which is very unheard of because usually Intel does everything in-house.
Yeah.
That's their whole prerogative.
But you look at the return on assets.
Oh yeah.
That's fantastic. Return on equity, fantastic. Because you want that, like I said, above, what was it, 10%? They're 15% over it.
Yeah.
So we count this 1, 2. Even though it's yellow, I'm still counting it as a X. So you have 2 X's. This is a check mark because they're not diluting you.
They're not, yeah, staying the same.
So
11.
we get 11 out of 13, which is 84.62. So I just want to make this clear. Even if a high number you get for your stock, that still does not mean your stock would not go down. Your stock will go down. It's just how bad can they handle a bear market, which we're in.
Right.
So if you look at this discount cash flow, which I grabbed from Jacob Morris, and these are in Taiwanese dollars because if you convert it to American dollars, it messes with the fair value
Right.
too much. So I like it 12.5. You like 13.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's 1.5 trillion dollars
Right.
of Taiwanese dollars.
Right. I know. It's the numbers are gonna be a little bit of a trip up. I had that same problem when I was analyzing them.
So, according to this,
Hmm.
and also concerning all these and this discount cash flow model says TSM should be $6,000.
Yeah.
Like,
So when you convert that's obviously in Taiwanese dollars, but when you convert it to American dollars, what does that work out to be?
let me see. $203.
Really? Interesting.
So,
I was not expecting that at all, to be honest. It's just
again, I have to use their Taiwanese dollar,
mhm.
and I get a fair value of 645. This is a more simpler free cash flow one. Just take the
Right.
the cash flow and find the average growth rate of that,
Right.
then find the future value and all that stuff. Then the free cash flow, the cash and cash equivalents, the total debt,
Yeah.
and find the EV divided by the shares outstanding, and come out to this fair value. Again, let's check out how much that would be.
It's gonna be considerably less.
Yep.
It was 645, 46, and $21. Yeah, that's a huge uh difference there. I wonder what the average comes out to be.
Oops. 21.95, and was it like 203?
Something like that.
112.
112. It's still up. It's still higher than what the current price is.
Yeah, it's
Right.
85. So in a sense, you can make money according to if you take the average of both of them.
Mm-hmm.
Cause yeah, this is outrageous. How far that is.
Yeah, I think the last time I was because I was going to analyze this company, so I said, you know what, it'd be interesting to see you analyze this business. I've only analyzed TSM once. This is a company I would love to own. This is personally I would like to own this business because of their uh, place in the semiconductor like field. Because I actually they apart from Intel and Nvidia, sorry if Intel. Apart from like AMD and Nvidia, they actually make chips. I think they make the Apple chips too, like the M1 chips or whatever they have in their laptops.
So I kind of have relaxed on my gut check log.
Mm-hmm.
But these are the last 10 stocks I did as I have put it in there.
Mm-hmm.
So BP's 7, well, Apple's 12. I can't remember what exactly it was. I think it was a price of free cash flow. They're too high. Again, this was around the 13th of last month.
June. Okay.
The Calipers 11, Adobe's 10.
Yeah.
I haven't done Microsoft yet. Like I said, I'm going through my portfolio.
Right.
Comcast is 10. AbbVie is 9. I hate evaluating Berkshire Hathaway stocks because they're more of an ETF than anything else. So it's kind of
Right.
hard to really evaluate the fair value of the company.
It's yeah. I don't think I've ever done an analysis on it because it doesn't compute well with my software.
Yeah, it doesn't.
It's because of that exact reason you just gave. It's you have to analyze the other individual companies in there and then almost rebalance it as if it was in the, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because that's essentially it. They're an ETF and they own all these other businesses. So I mean, if you analyze every individual company on its own, then you know you can kind of roughly see, okay, where's Berkshire, how are they doing?
Yeah.
But that's a very interesting analysis that you have on TSM. So two drastic numbers there, but it comes out
Yeah.
to be almost $112. Yeah, that it's an interesting business. Um, I mean, sorry, you said you go to school and it's something with tech,
Cybersecurity.
right?
Yeah.
cybersecurity. So you're obviously very familiar with what TSM does and their and how integral they are. The only thing, I don't know if you agree, but the one thing that makes me nervous about that company is that it's based in Taiwan
Which is
and
right by China.
right by China, and
They're at war with China.
well, I mean, are they
They're
at
not
war?
really, they're not a physical war, it's more war of like opinions.
Right? Not strenuous, but it's very stressful scenario, right? Like any, like almost like the pot can boil over at any
Which
time.
is going to be a big war because
Right.
the United States is the ally of or Taiwan on TSM.
Right.
But
And
I want you in your stock analysis tool to put in Cummings.
what's the symbol?
CMI.
BMI?
CMI.
Oh, CMI. Here, I'm gonna put that in right now. Let's see.
BMI is by a body mass index.
Body mass index. Yeah.
Wait, you looking like you're at 10%, so
No, man, not even close, man. Not even close. That's for the next year. I gotta cut down. I gotta.
I don't know. You on Instagram telling people's moms and people are like all in awe how good you look.
Yeah.
So you want to share your screen?
Sure. Here, I'll share it right now. Let's see. I'm gonna share this. I'll put this full screen. Let me clear out these numbers here.
So that free
okay.
cash flow growth, yes, is down because they just bought a company.
Let's see. Okay. They just they bought that
Metator.
Right.
So that's why the free cash flow is down from what it says 5 years ago.
Right. And then what else we got here? That's only one discrepancy there. And that's
it's understandable why it's down.
Sure. Yeah, they bought they bought a business. Scoring it's pretty high score. Pay a little bit of a dividend. Not too thrilled about this though. The dividends being paid out being $800 million, considering our free cash flow is only pretty much $2 billion. It's almost $1 billion allocated towards your free cash flow. It's almost being cut in half on average. I can't say I'm a huge fan of that. I'm not I mean, $1 billion is still it's a large chunk of cash, right?
Their market cap's 27 billion.
Right. But $1 billion of that free cash flow, like you're cutting your free cash flow in half, almost 50%, it's almost a 50% payout that you're giving to shareholders. Yeah. And then the other $1 billion is just there. Let's see if, like for me, I'd rather have a lower payout, like 30%, and then like 30% and less than that. And that way you at least have 70% that you can work with, either reinvest into yourself or buy back shares and stuff like that. And I like the Piotrowski score. It's pretty decent. 7 is not bad.
So I've always thought, like, where do you get these numbers? Like, where do you get these scores from?
Like all the numbers and the data. I have a provider, so I have a data provider for all.
No, I mean, what made you to use those as your metrics?
These Altman Z-score and Piotrowski score, it was initially part of, believe it or not, of the financial evaluations in the early sketches of the app. I had almost similar to you. I think I had 12 categories, literally 12 or 13 categories. And then I shaved it down to 10 because I even had PEG ratio, price earnings growth. But I said Piotrowski score should be here in just the company metrics, because Piotrowski score, it takes a look at it's very similar to the financial evaluations, but it's based off a year-to-year basis. We're looking at return on assets and all these other different things, right? So what this does, it looks from year to year. The financial valuations looks at the last 5 years, how it progressed, and the company metrics looks at how the last 5 years on average compares to today's numbers, right? So you're almost trying to get, like, what I'm trying to do is get as much of a 360 view as possible of this business. And as much as possible. And Almond Z-score, I feel like is just an important metric because it just shows you how safe this business is from being bankrupt. So
Okay.
anything over 3 is safe, and then 1.8 to 3 is this gray area, and then underneath 1.8, you're kind of, it's almost in a distress,
Okay.
right?
Yeah, I was like, I never heard of these metrics before,
Almond Z,
or
the
Petrosky.
Piotrowski score. They're both made by two different. So Almond was an accountant, and they're both accountants. And Piotrowski, he was a value investor, and essentially he made what would be like similar to how Everything Money has their 8 pillars, and I have like financial valuations, and your gut check, right? He made the Piotrowski score, and he would only buy companies that were in the 7 to 9 range, or he would buy companies that scored 9 out of 9 because that's the highest score you could possibly get.
Mm-hmm.
And then that was his investing philosophy. So I can't remember the categories off the top of my head, but a lot of them are like return on assets, how many the number of assets being increased from year to year. There's like, you can find them, the categories all online, but it's a great, I feel like it's an interesting score because it's quick, and it helps simplifies like what's already on the like the income statements and stuff like that. So instead of actually having to go look at everything, it's already in there.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
So,
no, sorry, go ahead.
So well, I'm gonna let you do your own evaluation of this really quick. Besides the free cash flow 0 because of the acquisition,
Yeah.
is that dividend paid the only thing preventing you from buying Cummings?
No, there's a lot. Like, I mean, I like cars, right? I know
Yeah.
what Cummins does, right? But this is something that
You'll look more into.
I have to look more into it before I even like price it out. Like, I like where it stands on a score position, but for me, if I don't really understand what, like, apart from, yes, they make engines and stuff like that, but I don't have any detail. I can't provide any more detail on that. You know what I mean? Like, I don't have that full understanding. So I would
Yeah.
stay away from this until I have that.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
You drive.
Yeah. I don't drive a Cummings. No.
Yeah.
I just know a Cummings. My uncles used to work, or they still work with semis.
Right.
As like a mechanic, so I know Cummings. Then they also apply engines and generators to Chevron.
Right. See, these are things that are like super important.
So, look at that share buyback.
Yeah, the dilution, the 5, like almost 5%. But that was one thing. Yeah, we should have covered in like investing philosophies. Is before I even take a look at the company, it's, do I understand how they make money?
Yeah,
that's the one thing. Like, it's fun to do all these analysis on different companies to try to help people that are looking at these companies, but on a personal level, if I don't understand how this business makes money and what they actually do, and I can't explain it in like 2 sentences, I can't, I won't do an analysis on it.
yeah.
Right.
What was I gonna say? I can. Oh, being here by myself. My wife is in Hawaii with my son. I'm here about the house setting. And I'm like, I'm losing my mind.
Yeah.
But
How it goes, man.
what the heck? What's I gonna say? But oh, JP Morgan. Do you have shares in JP Morgan?
I do not.
Okay.
No.
I'm thinking about selling mine
Mm-hmm.
because they made a fundamental change in their business by halting their buyback program.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I hardly sell my positions, but
Mm-hmm.
if they're fundamentally change their business, like how JP Morgan stopped their share buyback program because of their missing revenue,
Right.
I'm gonna really look at it like, you know what? I'm not going to invest into your company because you're fundamentally changing your business. It's not a drastic fundamental change, but it's a part. Like, okay, I'm not really feeling you. So,
I mean, I wouldn't I mean, we only have less than a minute, but I guess counter that, I wouldn't classify that as a fundamental change. Like they're not changing the way they're structurally doing banking. They're more so just looking at the economics of if their revenue's getting cut and they're buying back more shares, right? They probably want to allocate some of their revenue into other facets of the business where if they have to honor that share buyback program, it might be stripping them away from other ventures,
I get that. But
right?
well, thank you for being on here for an hour and a half.
No problem.
So
Anytime, man. There's a lot of fun. It's cool to just talk stocks. It was an amazing time.
yeah. So I'll reach out to you on Discord or Instagram. So
I appreciate that. Well,
take
thank you for
care.
having me on, Marquise.
No problem. Take care, Leo.
You too.